CB radios. Did you ever use a CB radio, Jack?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what was your handle?
I think my mom and I always did Thelma and Louise, which we weren't jumping off a cliff. I don't know why we always did that.
Yeah, I was Screwy Louie.
You're Screwy Louie.
Screwy Louie. Michael, did you have a CB handle back in the day?
Never had a CB.
You never had a CB? Oh, no. My God. I'll have to buy again. I don't know what to get Michael Jenkins for Christmas.
I'm sure they're on sale right now.
A Midland CB radio. It is 8:41 right now. Welcome back to CW Iowa Live. Michael Jenkins is here. He is, of course, a bankruptcy attorney giving you some advice as to how to handle various situations. And this time of year, new time of year, and a couple of weeks away, Michael, from a lot of people thinking about money coming into their lives. And also talking about bankruptcy, too, and wondering whether or not the money that's coming into their lives is going to be theirs or not. We're talking about your tax refunds and bankruptcy at the same time.
Yeah, this is the time of year where if you're going to be filing bankruptcy, you start to wonder, or you should, do I get to keep my tax refund this year if I file bankruptcy? And so I'm going to really just focus on you're filing bankruptcy and you haven't gotten your tax refund yet.
So let's say, obviously, you're filing taxes for last year, but you're filing bankruptcy in 2017. Is that really going to affect the money that you would get back from the government that affected you in 2016?
Well, yeah, I mean, what you've got is the government owes you money.
Right.
So the money that the government owes you is an asset in bankruptcy, just like if somebody else owed you money because you loaned them some money. It's the same thing. You effectively loaned the government your money unwillingly.
Yeah, seriously, if you look at it right, yeah.
And now they're paying it back to you, except without interest. Almost like in a savings account.
Oh, thank you for that. Okay, so it does affect you if you're, does this affect you, because a lot of times you give us deadlines, like so many months out before and after. So is there a time period that we need to be looking at?
Well, this is just, in this tax year only, because right now is the time where last year's over with, so your refund's sort of cemented in stone other than actually doing the return and finding out what amount that is.
Right.
And so when you're filing, if you file bankruptcy today,
yep.
And you haven't filed your tax return yet, you're going to be filing it, and so the court is going to be looking to see how much you got. And so what the court does, the trustees of the court, we have to give the trustees the previous year tax return for most people. And they have a chance to look at it before we ever go to their meeting of creditors. And so if you had a big one the previous year where it could be a chance, it might be over the protected amount, then the trustee is going to want to see your tax return when you do it in February or March or April. And then you're instructed not to spend any of the tax refund money until they give a clearance on whether or not you have to give any of that money up to the bankruptcy court, and that money gets used to pay debts.
Now you said protected money. What is protected money?
The general rule is each person that files bankruptcy can protect up to $1,000 of tax refund money that's owed to them. So if a single person files and they get a tax refund of $800, that's going to be good. They get to keep that. $900, they get to keep it. $1,100, it's over the $1,000, but it's not over enough that the bankruptcy trustee is going to want to just fool around with $100 to go divide up among $35,000 of unsecured debt.
Right.
And so it's just important to know where you stand. If you had a really big tax refund, that can come into question. Now, if
is it you talking a couple of grand here?
$2,000-$3,000, and that's if you're a single person, which it's not really common unless you have a single parent. Then those can become big for other reasons. If you're married, a husband and wife, and you're both filing bankruptcy, then you get basically twice as much money, $2,000 instead of $1,000. But that's the general rule. Now there's an exception to the general rule. With this husband and wife, each person has to have worked and contributed taxes, paid taxes. So if you worked at a job and you had taxes taken out of your paychecks, you paid in taxes. If you're self-employed, you're supposed to pay estimated taxes every quarter of the year. And so if you did that and paid those in, then that person would also be eligible to get a refund of the overpayment of taxes. However, that isn't always occur, and at least with many of the people I meet who are self-employed, they don't pay in any taxes. They just sort of wait till the end of the year.
They wait till the end of the year, yep.
And in many instances, just because of the dynamics of the business, maybe on paper it shows that the company lost money, the other spouse earned money and had taxes taken out, and because of the different rules of the tax code, a big tax refund can occur. And the problem is, the spouse who was self-employed and didn't pay in any taxes doesn't get a $1,000 tax refund, because you're not getting, you didn't pay in anything to refund.
So you have nothing that's supposed to come back to you.
Right, at least according to the way the bankruptcy court looks at it. I view this differently as to the refund, but it doesn't really matter how I view it. The bankruptcy court views it that you don't get any back if you didn't pay any in.
Right.
And so that's kind of an important thing. So if we've got an example would be, if somebody is working at, let's just say, principal and makes a really good salary, the wife, and the husband's a home remodeler, and they have about $70,000 or $80,000 income together. If the husband didn't pay in anything and the refund's $4,000, the wife gets to protect $1,000, and the husband doesn't get to protect any.
Okay.
And they get to forfeit $3,000 to the bankruptcy court.
Wow.
Now, let's say you're filing together because you're married, but only the husband is filing bankruptcy. Does that affect both of you?
Well, in that particular situation, if the husband filed bankruptcy, the one that was self-employed is the home remodeler and didn't contribute any taxes, but then the wife, and this is a really good question, worked at principal and earned $70,000.
Right.
Since that's her tax refund money, it's a refund of the tax she paid in. The court can't take any of it.
So she can still get her tax
She
refund. It
gets to
won't be
have her
touched,
tax
even though they're
refund.
filing as a married couple.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, that's
Okay,
good to
that's
know.
good to
That's
know.
real good to know.
But I can just see if in this scenario people are like, well, I'll just keep filing for extensions, so they're not going to know how much money is coming back. Can people, do they try to fool
Well,
the government that way?
yeah, there's no fooling them. The case stays open until you've turned in your tax return, and if you don't, they can throw your case out and revoke the whole bankruptcy for not doing what you're supposed to
be
do.
doing. Okay.
Because that's an asset that needs to be determined, and they're intentionally interfering with the administration of the case
Okay.
if they don't do it in an ordinary period of time.
Okay.
And if they need an extension, they can get one, although it's not customary if you're just regular wage earners to need to do that. Now, another interesting scenario would be if you have a husband and wife, and let's say the husband works at the post office and makes a really good income, $60,000, $70,000, and the wife works part-time at Walmart, getting $8 an hour, and made maybe $5,000 for the year. They both worked. The problem is, at $5,000 for the year part-time, she would have had very little federal withholdings taken out of her paychecks because of the low income. And so even though she did work, and what she does matters on how the refunds are calculated, she's not going to get very much out of that $1,000. If you don't have at least $1,000 taken out in federal tax, you're not going to get $1,000 back when you file the bankruptcy. If you only had $500 taken out, that's the maximum you're going to be able to get. And so that matters too.
Wow, so many questions
I was going to say,
involving
a lot
this.
of things
This is
involved, but
a lot
the
of
important
moving
thing to
parts.
know is that it is involved with taxes coming back. And if you're looking at filing for bankruptcy, we want to make sure you're dealing with someone who knows all those rules
And that
and
would be
regulations.
this guy right here, Michael Jankins. And if people want to get a hold of you, Michael, because obviously tons more questions coming up, and people are going to start thinking about this in the next week or two. What is the best way to get a hold of you and get an appointment? Because I'm sure you're getting real busy.
Very busy. You can reach me at 255-1855, or you can find me on the internet and send me an email at www.iowa-bankruptcylaw.com. Ask your lawyer when you're going to file about the tax issue so they can explain it to you.
Yeah.
Is it one of those things, if you know you're getting money back in a will, that you kind of wait? Would you wait, or this is always going to be involved if you're filing bankruptcy?
Sometimes if you know you're going to get a big one, it's better to wait, get the money, and be able to spend it on appropriate things so you don't lose it.
Okay.
There you go.
Another big question.
Give Michael a call if you have any other questions. It is 9 minutes before 9 o'clock right now. Stick around. We will be right back. And when we come back, we'll talk about some of the food trends of 2017 that are most interesting. That'll be coming up next.